Good morning or afternoon if you're joining us from the East Coast, and welcome to today's web seminar, Getting Started with Google AdWords. My name is Tracy Taylor. I'll be your host for today. And before we begin, I'd like to go over just a few housekeeping rules for today's presentation. Today's presentation will be recorded, so we will be sending you a copy of today's slides as well as a link to the audio recording out via email by the end of next week. That email will be coming from one of our specialists, Madeline Stryker. That's mstryker@aspeinc.com. So if you would like to receive those presentation materials, please go ahead and whitelist ASP Inc. with your email service provider. All attendees will be muted upon arrival of the web seminar today. However, we will be taking questions throughout the Q&A function or the presentation via the Q&A function at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. In some instances, we will answer your question immediately, but for those questions beneficial to the entire group, we will hold them until the Q&A session at the end. However, please feel free to submit your questions at any time if you would like them covered. Now, to briefly introduce today's presenter, Tina Arnaldi. Tina is the founder of 360 Internet Strategy and is a resident of Charleston, South Carolina since the late 1990s. She is an experienced presenter offering instruction on topics including Google tools and social media. To pass things over to you, and you can go ahead and take us away for the day.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tracy. And hello, everyone. If you would take just a minute in the Q&A box there and just put a note, I can hear you, just so I know that my sound is okay before I get in too far. So just would put a quick note, you're just okay or anything just to indicate. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So great. Yes, as Tracy said, my name's Tina Arnoldi. I work through 360 Internet Strategy, and I help people really with their whole digital marketing spectrum, mostly working in the analytics and AdWords space because those two areas are changing so much that I find a lot of people tend to get frustrated with, they log into their accounts and they thought they knew what they were doing and it seemed to look different the following day. So today's webinar is specifically about Google AdWords, and the audience this is for people who are genuinely getting started. So maybe you've never used AdWords before. I'm hoping that today you'll have enough information here to at least, be able to start your campaign. If maybe you've used it in the past or you're using it now and you think you sort of have it down, this hopefully will at least give you a few new tips today. So you'll be able to maybe learn some things about your account or features that you didn't know were there. This one, I'm not going to get into nonprofits specifically today. I do just show this one slide in case there are some nonprofits on the call today. I want to make sure first that you know that you can get AdWords for free. So you would go through this Google grant process in order to get an AdWords for Nonprofits account. There are some restrictions. There's a little bit of things that you can do with a nonprofit account that you can do with a paid account. But the point is just so you know that this tool is available. So if you are a nonprofit or you volunteer with one, have a friend with one, please make sure you let them know about this so they can at least get their application in and start getting AdWords advertising for free. So again, just pointing that out. That's a whole other different topic, AdWords for nonprofits. I just want to make sure that people are aware of it. Okay, so getting started. This is kind of an overview of what an AdWords account structure should look like. At your top level, your AdWords account would be company. It would be your website. That would be your account. And then in your account, you have campaigns. So a common example would be a retail clothing line. So the AdWords account could be the name of the department store, and they can have an ad campaign here, and this could be for their women's clothing. And then this ad campaign here is for their men's clothing. So you can see the campaigns kind of correspond to how a website is set up. So you have your women's line and your men's line. And then here on the left, we're saying this is our women's clothing line. These are the dresses, and these are skirts. You have your ad groups are types, so the things that make sense for them to go together. So here, if we're in this ad group here, this one here we're saying is the dresses. So we'll have, a formal dress, party dress, casual dress, business dress, so all this here is going to be related to dresses. Now, if this ad group, I said skirts, same kind of thing. So if you have your group is skirts, then it's going to be about your casual skirts, short skirts, long skirts. So it's the things that are grouped together. And that's what's really important in your campaign, is to make sure, the mistake that a lot of people make is that they will have a campaign and an ad group, and they'll just kind of have everything lumped together. But you want to think about your campaign setup in terms of the structure of your website. So now I mentioned nonprofits. They might have an ad campaign about their area in a certain county or with a certain population. Other service providers, they might have their, this campaign might be consulting services, and then this campaign might be training services. So that's just a big high-level overview that if you haven't gotten started, it's great that you can think about it this way. Even if you have a campaign, you have an AdWords account running already, you might back and see, I think we can try to drill down a little more and be more specific with our group. Now, you're going to hear different things about how many keywords is ideal for each ad group. And I say start on the small side with maybe 5 to 10 keywords, because, again, you really want it to be tightly themed, and you want to have them all, really kind of be related to each other. When you have an ad group that's got maybe 100 keywords, that's a lot harder to manage. You don't know if all of these words are really relating well to each other. So you really want to stay, just tightly targeted with your campaigns and your groups and keywords. What we're talking about, of course, is advertising on Google. I'm going to talk to you about keywords, about writing ads, and then going beyond search to what's called the display network. So the advertising, and this is, just a real basic overview. I'm sure you know this. You come to Google, you have a question. I use, for this example, I decided to use office supplies. So you can see the example I'm going to show you. I used office supplies as my search. It goes to Google, bunch of ads come back, and then hopefully, ideally, the person will choose your website when they see these search results. And here we are, we're at the office supplies search that I did. And remember, I am here in Charleston, South Carolina, so that's where my results are going to be, as Google's identified me as being here. So let's look at the results. So again, up at the top, supplies, that's the query that I typed in. And then these are the ads. So you can see the little yellow there, ad. And I'm not surprised to see Staples and Office Depot. Those are big office supply stores where I live. But you're also going to see ads over here on the right. So those are your paid results when you see them on the top and on the right. And the key here is you really do want to be on the first page. If you get into that second page, a lot of people don't necessarily go beyond page 1. So both with your paid results, if you're doing your AdWords, you want that to be on the first page. And then if you get into something else called SEO or search engine optimization, those are results that you can't pay for. And a lot of people, really want to get on the first page there too. So you want to get here, and once you're here, you want to make sure that this is an ad that appeals to people, right? So at a glance, I can see these ads all seem pretty relevant. This one is office supplies, office supplies, office supplies. So let's talk about what it means to write a good ad. So have specifications with your ads, that you have 25 characters in the heading. So this right here, this advertise with Google, that's 25 characters max, so that is your heading. So you really want to make sure that you can write concisely to make sure that your heading can fit within 25 characters, because that's obviously not a lot of room. And I'm going to skip here to the description lines. So you can have 35 characters here and 35 here. So you can have 2 description lines. So still, you've got to be really tight with the way you're writing in order to get that in, just within those short parameters. That's really not a lot of room. Now let's come back up here, the display URL. The display URL, adwords.google.com. And again, that's short. And for most websites, that's fine. Your URL will fit in there. Now, the destination URL is where people will really land, so it's not necessarily what is seen here. So in this case, we have a display URL of adwords.google.com. Now, the actual destination URL could be adwords.google.com getting started with AdWords / et cetera, et cetera. So it could be a really, really long URL. So you display URL and destination URL generally that are different, so they're eye-catching. So let's just back up here a minute. So let's see what's a good one. So, well, Office Depot, that's okay that it's just Office Depot here is their URL. I mean, it is pretty clear, what it's doing. This one is an example, this supplygeeks.com /office supplies over on the right side. So that one is, their office supplies is their display URL, but it might actually go somewhere else. So you can you have a display URL, which is what people see, and when you want that to be short and concise, and then you have the destination URL, which is your landing page, which actually might be quite a bit longer. Okay, so you have these basic parameters that you have to follow in order to get your ad on Google. Let's talk about what a good ad looks like. So a good ad is relevant to the keywords. This is why I say when you're doing your keywords, you want to make sure that it's a very tightly themed keyword. So if we go back to the example of the women's clothing line, and you have an ad group and you say it's just women's clothing, and then you have keywords for dresses and jackets and blazers and blouses, and you see that you have all of these different keywords, the ad really doesn't necessarily relate well to the keywords if you have the keywords that are just so all over the place. The only thing that is that it's something related to women. So, a good ad that says something about women's dresses would have keywords in the ad group that are not about the dresses. I'm going to just jump in here. I do see the comment, somebody about destination URLs are not displayed. And if I did say that incorrectly, I have to take that back. That's correct. So the destination URL, just to clarify, in case that didn't come across clearly. So the display URL here is what you see, adwords.google.com. The destination URL, that is maybe the adwords.google.com / it's a really long landing page. That's where the person will actually land up, but that's not what you will see on the Google search page. What you see on the search page is just that display URL. So hopefully that clarified it if that did not come across correctly. So the display URL is what people see, and then the destination URL is where they land. I'm glad you pointed that out because I want to make sure people walk away with that information. So the ad. So if your ad is about dresses, the keywords should be related to dresses. No, don't talk about high heels or belts or purses. That tight theme. Of course, you want to have a good click-through rate. So you've got to watch your click-through rate over time to see how your ads are performing. If you maybe need to have some changes there, if you don't have good keywords, if you don't have a good landing page, you monitor that over time to see how you're doing. You want to stand out a bit from your competitors. So when I took a quick look at that office supply one, I guess maybe the only ads that had kind of jumped out at me were the Staples and Office Depot, simply because I know I have one right here where I live. But when at a glance, there wasn't anything about those ads that really jumped out. And I guess that is maybe kind of a tough niche to stand out on if you're selling office supplies. But if you have something about you that is different, maybe you're one of the few people that offers free shipping or overnight delivery or buy and get one or anything like that, you want to make sure that you can include that piece, about how you stand out. The to action. What are you asking the person to do? Do you want them to buy, to sign up, to click now, to purchase? So think about these action words. What is somebody going to do as a result of clicking on your ad and coming to your page? And again, that it's a relevant page on your website. What I see a lot of people do is they'll create an ad and they will send someone to their home page. Now, again, the homepage, if we come back to the department store example, and, I'm looking for, let's say, men's dress shoes. I click on an ad for men's dress shoes, and I'm taken to the page where I can link to homeware, women, men, children, all of these different things. That can get a searcher frustrated very quickly because they don't know they're clicking looking for men's dress shoes, so they expect to be on a page about men's dress shoes. So keep that in mind too. So let's talk about some of the couple helpful questions to make sure that you do stand apart. So the why choose you, so some of the examples here, we won an award. Our products are U.S. made. We're always on time. Although I would say always on time, maybe be a little bit careful with that because I think it's hard for anybody to always do something. But, fast shipping, free shipping, what sets you apart? And then the details, about your features. Or, some here, evening classes available. That's great for people who work full time and they're looking for classes after 5 p.m. and you're one of the few people locally that do that, then yeah, absolutely that stands out. Convenient locations, right? So there's not just one. We've got 10 throughout the county. So what else stands out? And again, back to the what should the customer do? They should buy, they should get, they should download, they should call, they should click. So remember that you want to keep in mind things that will really help you to stand out when you're writing your ad. Let's talk a little bit about keywords. One way to do, there's a number of different ways to do keywords. And I'll talk about a couple different things here, but one very simple one is to just go to google.com and do a search and see what's coming up. So you have, we all have different ways that we think about our businesses. So if you type in just different ways, let's say, for example, an accountant, if you're an accountant or you're a CPA or you're a tax preparer or you're a financial services provider, all of these things are somewhat related. So when you're on google.com and you're just doing some keyword searches, you can see, how much, or is this term coming up, 100,000 times or 4,000 times, or that's really the simplest way to start just to see how popular some keywords are. Just, go there and start typing different variations of your business. I want to talk about the match types. I'm going to talk about the keyword planner briefly, as the search terms report, which is going to be very helpful in figuring out what's not working, and then we'll talk a little bit about negative keywords too. Your keyword, quite simply, it's a word or phrase that can trigger an ad. So a keyword in the search query can actually be different. So I have an office supply store. Now I might bid on the phrase office supplies. So office supplies is the keyword that I am paying for. The searcher's query could be office products. Now, depending on the type of keywords the business uses, a query, what's typed into google.com, can trigger the ad. So you want to make sure understanding these keyword types is really important. And then making sure, again, keywords, that it matches what people are typing on Google, because we all have our own lingo when we think about our businesses, to be careful we're not too caught up in that. And make sure that it's relevant. It makes sense to what's being sold. Talk about these keyword match types. And if you can master this, you will master a lot in your account that you'll be able to save. You'll save a lot of money. So the broad keywords are the ones that you have to be the most careful with. So these are the words in any order, any variations. So example here of Alaska cruise. The word Alaska could trigger an ad, and the word cruise can trigger an ad, not just Alaska cruise. So broad will reach the biggest group of people, but it's also going to probably be the most expensive, and you're going to get a lot of irrelevant ones. There's going to be people, it's just not going to be relevant to your specific business. So the time when you might use broad, I would say, well, honestly, for one, if you have money to burn, and a lot of us small shops don't have that, but maybe some of the larger ones do. If you're at the beginning of a campaign and you have a very targeted niche and you're just not sure how people define it, that's when you might use broad. If you are using broad, I would say do this for a short period of time and really watch it very closely. Don't let a campaign with broad ads run for a month and then see what your costs are. So a broad, again, it reaches the biggest group. It's going to get a lot of people that aren't necessarily targeted to be your audience. Now, first is the one that I am partial to because by using quotes, you are getting words in a specific order, but you can have words before or after that. So if the word is Alaska Cruise with the quotes, double quotes, it'll come up for Alaska Cruise. It'll come up for by Alaska Cruise, right? So I'm getting a word before that. It'll also come up for Alaska Cruise reviews. So it's getting words before and after what's in the parentheses. What it doesn't do is it has to be in that order. So if I were to type, Cruise Alaska, I'm looking, it's a different order. So that's what phrase is you are looking for these specific words in this order, but allow for something before and after that phrase. Now, exact is really what that says, exact. So Alaska Cruise, it's got to be for, Alaska Cruise or something very close to it. It can't be additional words. So if my query on Google was Alaska Cruise summer deals, it wouldn't trigger because I have these extra words of summer and deals. So very specific. Negative words. I'm going to show you a screen to talk about how you find your negative words. These are the ones where you do not want to be triggered. So, example, I am a cruise line. I'm a very specific brand. I'm not like a Travelocity or Expedia or anything like that. Just for my line. Now, if I have an ad and, for, let's say, here Carnival goes out of here in Charleston to Bahamas. So if I'm working at Carnival and I want to sell, cruises from Charleston, I probably wouldn't want to have my ad be triggered for something like reviews on cruise from Charleston, because my site isn't about reviewing. I'm not looking for people to shop and determine if they want to do Carnival or someone else or Charleston or a different port. I don't want to get people who are just shopping around and looking for reviews. So I might have a negative word of reviews. I'm not a review site. I don't want people to come who are looking for reviews. Another keyword, unless of course you are a recruiter or a job agency, is to do negative words for things like jobs or employment. You don't want to pay for people who are looking for jobs. So the next screen, I'm going to show you some more specific negative keyword examples. But again, probably most what you might want to do, I would, use phrase. And again, broad, be very careful with broad. It's good for the beginning of a campaign, but the cost can add up very quickly with not the best results. See a few more keyword examples. I talk about the negative keywords examples quite a bit just because it can save you a lot of money. So like for service provider, so like for me, I, provide digital marketing services. Well, in this one, I actually would want people who are looking for training because I do some training, but I don't want people who are looking to study. I come back to the example of an accountant. They don't want someone who's looking to study to become a CPA or someone who wants an accounting job. So you think about the things that you really don't want people to find you for. The other thing that's used by a lot of people is, free, cheap, porn, review, anything that you don't want to be found for. Question here about the different keyword match types. You can have different ones. So in your account where you have maybe a couple broad words, and maybe you're doing mostly phrase, and then you'll have your negative words. So again, like negative, free, cheap, discount, jobs, reviews, etc. So those are things that'll save you a lot of money, because once you have these negative words, your ad will never be triggered for it. So finding the relevant keywords, I did say using the Google.com as a good place to start. Another thing to do is to use Keyword Planner. And so when you're in your AdWords account under Tools, you'll have a Keyword Planner. So the screenshot we're looking at here is I have a little book bug that I manage as a hobby. So the reason it's not a money maker, it's not high volume, but when I teach classes, I will generally teach from it because there's nothing confidential. And you can see here, this is something I've run maybe a quarter a day. So when I'm going to be doing a class, I might throw text in it just so I have some data to show people, that's not confidential. And here, this red bar, it's telling me ads aren't running because balance is exhausted. And I know that because I was just doing this kind of as a short-term thing. So, but just so you know, so again, this is what we're looking at, is just my little books account, my little hobby blog. So here is I did Tools, and then I looked at the Keyword Planner. So when I look at the Keyword Planner, I'll just screenshot of that. So I'll go back here for you. When I went to the Use a Keyword Planner, looking for keywords, I'm looking for ad group ideas, looking for search volume, traffic estimates, and it's really very simple to use. So just this screenshot here, I'm going to get into, you'll see a little more detail when I talk about the display planner. What I'm doing is I'm saying that, I can enter here, I can search for some ideas, so I can enter some of the keywords about, products or services. The landing page is where they're going to land on a website, the page that's specific to the ad. I could include a category, or I could leave that blank. Either way, that doesn't matter. Just targeting here, it depends, again, what you're doing. Use Google. I probably would change languages to English. When I do on this site, this book blog, I leave this to all locations because, again, I'm just trying to collect data. So doing this, leave a lot of these defaults, and then when you do get ideas, and again, I'll see a screenshot. You'll see this in a little more detail when I talk about display, but that'll do. It just spits out a number of different options for you. And I see a question here. This is good. Does the page have to already exist when doing the research, or make it after you actually execute it? So what's ideal if you do not have the landing page set up yet when you're starting to do some of your keyword research? In this landing page area, what I would do here is this landing page, I would just put your home page. If you don't even have a home page, let's say your site's not even hasn't been set up, or it's down or something like that, at the very least, just go ahead and start entering some keywords here, and just to kind of start getting some ideas. So if, formal dresses versus formal gowns, getting back into the retail, you can see, get some ideas on the volume of words, and then whether or not, what the estimated costs are. So yeah, you can enter anything in here to get some of the keyword ideas. And again, that's your keyword tool. So there's a number of different ways for you to be able to get the keyword information you need. So again, here when you're in AdWords, when you're looking at tools, you have the keyword planner. And then one of my favorites is just looking at Google.com and getting an idea of the volume there. So now your keywords, you're evaluating your keywords, but this is kind of the way I talk about evaluating them with the search terms report. So we said that sometimes you might not know what your keyword is going to be, that you're maybe using a lot of broad words because you're not sure how people think about your business, or you're in such a new industry that you don't even know people are talking about it, so maybe you go very broad initially to try to see what kinds of things people come up with. The search terms report will help you if you're getting started see if you've got some words that are good ones or if you've got that are, some not so good ones. So an example specifically from my book blog account here. So I'm in my campaigns and I'm on the keywords tab, searching details, and I do search terms all. What means, again, you have a keyword. So here, a keyword, this is something that I'm bidding on. I'm saying I'll pay 20 cents for that. But then the search term is what people are actually typing in. So again, this helps you with your data by seeing what has actually been typed into the Google browser. So you are then able to kind of narrow down your search terms. So you screenshot from my account. So here we're in my book blog account, and this is what this looks like. So I'm in the keywords, still in that keywords tab, but where I am now is I'm looking at the search terms that were used. So these were things that people typed into Google to get to my ad. Now, what I can do from here is I go through these search terms and add the terms or can exclude them. Little hobby blog, just book blog where I do book reviews, book summaries, okay? So as I'm looking through here, I see book reviews. Okay, that's relevant, that's relevant, that's relevant, that's right. So I'm seeing all these different variations, and those are relevant, so I went ahead and added them to my account. Because I have some broad terms in here about book reviews, I'm getting some very specific ones. So if you look here, the one here in red, Cutting for Stone book review. Well, it was coming up because the broad match was pulling for book review, but it was also pulling what was before it. Cutting for Stone, I guess it's just a book title I'm not familiar with. I haven't done any reviews or summaries on it, so I excluded that. I don't want to get pulled again for Cutting for Stone. I'm paying for a review that's not relevant. And then, we come back and we keep looking and I see read book reviews. Okay, that's another relevant one, so I'm going to add it. This is very helpful in your keyword research if you're getting started. You're running your campaign, maybe you're just running it for a few days and you come in and you look at your keywords, and then this is how you do a little more research. If you're seeing, maybe you're looking at it and thinking, oh, I didn't even think of on this term here, book review summary. I was saying, let's do all book reviews. So, book review summary, maybe that would be a good phrase. Or if the opposite were true, that I was really just doing reviews and I wasn't summarizing any books, I want to make summary a negative term. So after you've reviewed your keywords and you've made a decision about what you want to do with them, up here you can either add it as a keyword or as a negative keyword. So you can work directly in this interface to include keywords or to get rid of keywords. So this is under your keywords tab and details search terms. And it's going to be one of the most helpful tools that you have in your toolkit when you're getting into your AdWords data. Okay, so again, the search terms report, you're seeing how ads performed when they were triggered by by words. So what you don't see over here on the right is you're seeing like some click-through rates and costs. So you do get really quite a bit of good data. You see some new search terms, and again, you find irrelevant ones that you want to get rid of. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about next is ad extensions. I know I'm flying through a lot of this, and again, you will have access to the slides and the recording to go back over. I always like to let people know as many tools or resources are available when they're getting started. So I tend to try to pack in as much information as I possibly can, and I'm trying to kind of watch for questions and, of course, do some questions at the end, ensure that we're still done, by the 1 p.m. Eastern time. So extensions. This is another feature that a lot of people seem to miss out on that really kind of, as it's saying, it extends the reach of your ads. So in this example, you can have a call extension where phone is displayed, have a location extension. So you see here, And even some of those office ads that I showed you, there were some, you could see the addresses on some. And then you can have the site links extensions. So in this bakery, we have hours, specials, birthday cakes, nutritional data. And I'll show you, again, I'll show you a screenshot of what that would look like. This links extension, this is kind of your one, this is your homework if you have an account, your one must do, is that it lets you include additional links. So when you're doing an ad, see here where we have this is your display URL that takes you to a destination URL. The site links extensions is a way for you to add additional links to your ad. Screenshot, I took this screenshot after I had stopped my books campaign, so there's no activity on there at the moment, but I wanted to at least show it to you, is that these site link extensions, the way I had them set up is I have, if anybody clicked on one site link, they would go specifically to my nonfiction book reviews. The other site link would go specifically to Christian book reviews. So these are my site links. When my campaign was running, I could see the number of clicks, the number of impressions. So same thing, it's just really is just an extension of your ad. And so you can have, there's a question posed here about having extensions in one ad. If I'm understanding correctly, what you do when you're setting this up, you're setting up your site link extensions, you suggest you want to have a minimum of 4, and then you can have up to 10. Now, kind of the catch here is that Google decides when to show your site links. And next time I do this, I'm going to make sure that I have one that has real data that'll be a little more helpful to you. So if somebody looks for an ad and they are looking for nonfiction book reviews, and Google will say, okay, this is a relevant site link. I think I'm going to show that one. So that's, Google makes that decision about what to show. You can have multiple link types in an ad. So you can have your site links extensions, you can have a call extension, and the location ones. So I think moving back a few screens on some of those office supply ones, you'll see that they had a phone number listed, a site link, and a number of different things. So if you are using this in your account, when you come in here to your campaigns, it's tab here, Ad Extensions. If you don't see it, this is why I'm pointing this out right here. Click on that. It could be that a couple of your tabs are hidden. So some of the tabs, like for Ad Extensions or Audience, you might not see right away. So look for this one right here to see if there's a drop down. The site links, there's a question about whether it counts against your quality score. I don't believe that counts against your quality score because Google is deciding whether or not to show the site link. So your quality score is impacted by what's going on over here with your ads and your keywords. Okay, so let's go and we'll talk a little bit about display. So go to the display network, which I say going beyond search. So the display network is the content network. And this is some of the ones, be like the Huffington Post or About.com. These are more commonly known as, you'll hear the term display network, content network is really the same thing. So the ads on the display network, they can show up as text. They can show up as image ads, which this is extremely helpful, and I'm going to show you what an image ad will look like. They can be video ads and then ads on mobile sites or like within a mobile app. So this lets you reach people a different way than you would on search. Search is really google.com, whereas display is all these other different types and opportunities to show up. So you can also choose placements. So a placement is where you say, I want my ad to show on, and again, the example of an About.com site. So if you look on About.com at some point today and click around, you'll see some ads on there. And that's because it's part of the display network that people are choosing. They're maybe either choosing to be on About.com or they are choosing to be contextually, that they want to be on ad, a page that's relevant to their topic. So if there is, so if I sell baby products and there's an about.com page, for moms, for new moms, I can say I want my ad about baby products to either show on the about.com mom page, or I can say I just want it to show on the network that, different networks that are catered towards new moms. Not by search, again, it's on these different ads, and also not limited to text. So the being able to do images is very cool because you can really get people's attention when you're doing an image ad. So let's talk about the placements. Like I mentioned, the out.com as a common place for display ads. So again, today, later on this afternoon, look at about.com and you'll notice some of the ads. So when you're finding relevant placements, I'll show you a tool to search. In some cases, you can specify what website you want. So I know about.com is part of the network. There's been some other ones that when you're searching for a placement, when you're adding it to your account, you can just type in a website and see if it comes up as a website, that accepts AdWords ads. So a couple ways to do that is you can use the display planner. See up here, tools. I showed this to you earlier. We did the tools, the keyword planner. You can also do tools and then do the display planner. So what you're doing here is you're getting ideas for pages. So you're saying, well, I want to be on pages that are catered to, like I said, to new moms, but I'm really not sure which pages those would be. I don't know which sites they are. So let's go ahead and do display planner and see what comes up. So I have an example I showed you, and again, I did it here just using my book blog. Using the display planner, saying I want customers who are interested in books, right? Obviously, fellow readers. I want to look for those. So I went ahead and did that as a term. My landing page, I just did the blog homepage. So I just have a blog. It's just books.tinarnoldi.com. I don't care where they are. Anywhere in the U.S., again, because this is my demo account for when I'm teaching, and English. So I only have English. So when I go ahead and do that, I can say, let's get some ideas. So I'm saying, Google, show me some things that are going to correspond with this. So we are looking at customers, again, interested in books, going to the page books.tinarnoldi.com. So I mentioned you could add group ideas. I want to look specifically at individual targeting ideas. So we have mobile apps. I'm going to focus on websites today. So Google is saying there are potential websites where you can replace where you can place your ad. Now, when I look at this, I think, well, Publishers Weekly, that's not necessarily right for me because I'm more of a kind of fellow book lovers club. So the Reader Cafe, I might want to look at that, but that seems like it could be relevant. This librarian site, I don't know, maybe that could be relevant. So, you might want to check out some of these sites to look and make sure that's something that you really want to be displayed on. And then, of course, relevance, the more green it is, it's saying that it's relevant to what you're looking for. So if you were to go further down here in my screen, you would start to see, smaller amounts of green, and you would see some yellow, which is saying, well, it's not really relevant to what you're doing. Now, you can still try it. You can, place it anywhere that accepts AdWords placements, but just know that it may not necessarily be the type of readership that you get. It's a really great research tool. Me things about, my demographics, the devices, the ages, if those things are important to me. So that's when you're using the display tool. And again, this is available in your AdWords account. Back here a little bit. This is under tools. So the tools is where you would get the keyword planner for your search, your google.com ads, and the display planner where you're getting ones to do on the content network. I mentioned the other kind of big sell, which is the point I kind of want to, the last thing I want to point out before if we have a couple more Q&A, but again, honoring that 1 o'clock Eastern end time, is the ability to do the image ads. So the image ads are really great because when they're done well, they can stand out. So if you want to do a good image ad, you still have to have that good call to action, right? So buy, call, click, sign up, etc., learn more, so you're still asking people to do something. Got to have some good images, easy to read, and then again, you experiment, promotions, coupons, just even the way that things are, displayed. You have a few different things you can try. So let me show you how to do an image ad using my book blog as an example. Nice thing about this, ideally, wherever you're working, you have a graphics person, who can do the design for you. But if you're like me, I'm, graphically challenged. It's not a strength for me. So I've been able to do quite a bit using the built-in tools with Google for image ads. So here we are. We're on the Ads tab. I'm in my book account. I'm saying I want to create a new ad, and I create an image ad. And it tells you right here, use text, graphics, animations, upload your own. So it kind of walks you through how to do an image ad. When I come to this next page, what I'm doing is I'm saying, I don't know what I want my ad to look like, so why don't you scan my website and tell me what you think would work, right? So what it's saying is it's looking at .teenarnoldi.com, my homepage at the time. Again, this is a simple blog called Read More, and it's got some of my most recent posts. So I said, all right, Google, just go ahead and scan it. Give me some ideas of things that you think might work for my ad. Once I do that, it finishes scanning, and I say, go to create. The options that it gives me. So none of this here is perfect, but let me point out what it's doing. It's pulling that this is about book reviews. And it's in my About page. Mine is just very simple. Again, it's a hobby blog. I'm not selling anything. So I'm just saying, hey, you're not ready to buy, read reviews of new books. What it did is, so it pulled that information in these different types, pulled an image, the first image that it saw. And then from here, I can change some things around. So I can say, instead of here where, let's see where we have shop now, this would be, it's defaulting to that, but I could say read more, learn more, and it depends on what you're doing as far as what you would tell people there. You see here too that you can add a company logo. You can change out the image that it pulled. So these are at least a really good starting point, and there's more than that. These are just some of the kind of the main screens that I wanted to show you that it at least gets you started. So for something like this, not being a graphic person, I would see this ad up here, and I would look at this and think, I think this is probably something I can work with. If I get my logo, better picture, I like the way this is laid out, and then once I select it, then I basically, quite simply have my image ad is created. And I like this one at the bottom too that has book reviews here at the top. So if you're not a designer, that you can use this built-in tool here to at least, get started and do the basics of your image ad. And again, these image ads, of course, are only available on the display or content network. It will not be available on something like Google.com. And the last point I want to make before we get into if there's any additional questions is that you always want to make sure that your analytics and AdWords accounts are connected. So once you do this, you can pass data back and forth. So when you're looking in your analytics account, it's really cool because you can see your traffic that came from AdWords versus from maybe your email newsletter or organic, and you can see how it's performing. So if you are getting a lot of clicks on your ads, you might think, oh, this is really good. I've got a 1% click-through rate, and I'm really happy with that. But you come over to your analytics account, and you see that they're bouncing. They're not buying or signing up for anything. They just come to your site and leave. Well, then that's really not so great. same thing too from the AdWords side. Once this connection, you can look at your analytics data in your AdWords account. So this screenshot here is from AdWords. So in AdWords, I'm looking at settings, looking at linked accounts, and I'm looking specifically at my linked accounts for Google Analytics. So what this shows me over here that, I'm importing Google Analytics metrics such as bounce rate, and this Books ad account is successfully linked. My ad account for books.tinaarnoldi.com, the ad account is linked to the analytics account. So that way I know that I'm passing data back and forth, and I can look at data in both accounts, and it's really, I just can't stress this enough, that if you are using AdWords, absolutely make sure it's connected to analytics so you can pass that data, back and forth, and you're seeing how the two are working together. We only have a couple minutes left, but if there are, a couple remaining questions, happy to answer those. And again, I know we don't have time for too much, but I'll just watch, or I don't know if Tracy or Madeline saw anything come in that I had not addressed.
Tina, I actually think you addressed most of the questions. They were sent to you via the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So we will stay on the line for just a couple of minutes because we have about 6 minutes left in today's presentation. Just a quick reminder, we will be sending a copy of today's slides as well as a link to the audio recording of the presentation out via email by the end of next week. That email will be coming from Madeline Stryker. That's stryker@aspeinc.com. So if you would like to receive a copy of today's presentation, please go ahead and whitelist that email address with your email service provider. I have had a couple of questions about PMI PDUs for today's event. Since the event was presented by ASPE ROI, which is our digital marketing division, these webinars are not approved by PMI to award PDUs for attendance. However, all of the web seminars presented by ASPE SDLC do award PDUs for attendance. So if you want to hop over to aspe-sdlc.com and take a look at the list of those upcoming web seminars, you do receive one PDU for attending each one of those web seminars. So you could roughly get about 60 PDUs a year and maintain certification just with those web seminars. So Tina, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself since it doesn't look like we have any more questions, and I'll stay on the line for about 5 more minutes. Thank you for a fantastic presentation as always, and thank you guys all for attending. You've been a really engaged audience today.
Thank you.